Okay, now I'm gonna be doing my image evaluations for BE exam. My first image was a scout AP projection. Patient was in supine position. I used Merrill's evaluation criteria for a KUB, which states that we need evidence of proper collimation, area from the pubic symphysis to the upper abdomen, proper patient alignment as ensured by the following: centered vertebral column, ribs, pelvis, and hips equidistant, no rotation of the patient, and we know that by spinous processes being in the center of the lumbar vertebrae. Ischial spines of the pelvis symmetric, if visible. Ala or wings of the illa symmetric as well. Soft tissue brightness and contrast showing the following: lateral abdominal wall and properitoneal fat layer, psoas muscles, low border of the liver. That would be right here. And then psoas muscles, low border of the liver on the right, and kidneys. Also transverse processes of the lumbar vertebrae on both sides. Kidneys would be somewhere here. Right or left marker, we would have to make it visible, but not in the anatomy. For this projection, we want full large intestine with rectum, since we are doing the EBE. The scout film will indicate how well the patient was prepared for the exam, meaning if they followed the proper diet directions before coming in for this procedure. So we would be checking if there is any fecal matter in their colon. I used my CR for this image was perpendicular to the IR at the level of the iliac crest. For the supine position, IR was 14 by 17 inches lengthwise, SID 40 inches, and breathing suspend at the end of expiration so that the abdominal organs are not compressed. And my technique was 90 at 20, and I shielded my patient. My next projection was an AP projection, right lateral decubitus position. Merrill's evaluation criteria states that we need an evidence of proper collimation, area from the left colic flexure to the rectum, no rotation of the patient, and that's demonstrated by symmetry of the ribs and pelvis. For single conscious examinations, adequate penetration of the barium. For double conscious examinations, the air inflated portion of the colon is of primary importance and should not be overpenetrated. So the structures shown on this projection are the up medial side of the ascending colon and the lateral side of the descending colon when the colon is inflated with air. So medial side of the ascending colon, so that's right here, and lateral side of the descending colon, that's right here. And my central ray for this projection was horizontal and perpendicular to the IR to enter the midline of the body, at the level of the iliac crest. IR was 14 by 17 inches lengthwise. SID 40 inches. Breathing was suspended at the end of expiration so that the abdominal organs are not compressed. My technique was 120 at 20, and I shielded my patient. My next projection was PA oblique projection, RAO position. Merrill's evaluation for this projection is we need evidence of proper collimation. We need to see an entire colon. Right colic flexure, less superimposed or open compared with the PA projection. Ascending colon, cecum and sigmoid colon. Ascending colon, cecum and sigmoid. Exposure technique that shows the anatomy. Structures shown on this projection are the right colic flexure, the ascending portion of the colon, and the sigmoid portion of the colon. My CR for this was perpendicular to the IR and entering approximately 1 to 2 inches lateral to the midline of the body on the elevated side at the level of the iliac crest. IR was at 14 by 17 inches lengthwise, SID 40 inches, and my breathing technique was suspend at the end of expiration so that the abdominal organs are not compressed, and my technique was 120 at 25, and I shielded my patient. My next projection was PA projection, prone position. Merrill's evaluation for this projection is evidence of proper collimation, entire colon including the plexus and the rectum, with 2 IRs may be necessary for hyperstenic patients. Vertebral colon eccentric so that ascending and descending portions of the colon are included. Exposure technique that shows the anatomy. The structure shown on this image would be the entire colon with the patient prone. So we can see the left colic flexure, right colic flexure, transverse colon, descending, ascending, rectum, sigmoid, and rectum down. We can see vertebral column, ribs, hips. CR for this image is perpendicular to the IR to enter the midline of the body at the level of the iliac crest. IR 14 by 17 lengthwise, SID 40 inches. Breathing suspend at the end of expiration so that the abdominal organs are not compressed. My technique was 120 at 20, and I shielded my patient. My next projection was PA axial projection. Patient was in a prone position. Merrill's evaluation for this projection is evidence of proper collimation. Rectal sigmoid area are centered to image when a 10 by 12 inch IR is used. I used 14 by 17 for this one. Rectal sigmoid area with less superimposition than in PA projection because of angulation of the central ray. Transverse colon and both flexes not always included. Exposure technique that shows the anatomy. So we have the rectal sigmoid area. CR for this projection was directed 30 to 40 degrees caudate to enter the midline of the body at the level of the anterior superior iliac spine, as is. Because the tube angle for this projection is 30 to 40 degrees caudate. SID was 40 inches. Breathing was at the end of expiration so that the abdominal organs are not compressed. And my technique was 120 at 30, and I shielded my patient. My next projection was PA oblique projection, LAO position. Merrill's evaluation criteria is evidence of proper collimation, entire colon, left colic fracture less superimposed or open compared with the PA projection, descending colon, exposure technique that shows the anatomy and structure that are shown on this image are left colic fracture and the descending portion of the colon. So in this image we can see a left colic fracture, it's open, right colic fracture, descending colon, ascending colon, vermiform appendix, sigmoid, rectum, descending, transverse colon. So CR for this image is perpendicular to the IR and entering approximately 1 to 2 inches, lateral to the midline of the body on the elevated side at the level of the iliac crest. IR is 14 by 17 lengthwise, 14 by 17 inches, SID 40 inches, breathing suspended at the end of expiration so that the abdominal organs are not compressed, and my technique was on 20 at 20, and I shielded my patient. My next projection was lateral projection of the rectum, left position. Merrill's evaluation criteria for this projection is evidence of proper collimation, rectosigmoid area in the center of the image, no rotation of the patient, superimposed hips and femora, a superior portion of colon not included when the rectosigmoid region is the area of interest, exposure technique that shows the anatomy. So we can see the sacrum, rectum, sigmoid, pubic symphysis, and the femurs are superimposed over each other. Femurs and hips. So CR for this image is perpendicular to the IR to enter the mid-coronal plane at the level of the axis. IR, I used 10 by 12 inches lengthwise for this projection. SID was 40 inches, breathing suspended at the end of expiration so that the abdominal organs are not compressed. My technique was 120 at 60, and I shielded my patient. My next projection was PA projection, left lateral pedicular position. Merrill's evaluation criteria for this projection is evidence of proper collimation, area from the left colic fracture to the rectum, no rotation of the patient as demonstrated by symmetry of the ribs and pelvis. For single contrast examinations, adequate penetration of the barium. For double contrast examinations, the air-inflated portion of the colon is of primary importance and should not be over-penetrated. The structures shown in this position are the up lateral side of the ascending colon and the medial side of the descending colon. So we're looking at the lateral side of the ascending colon and medial side of the descending colon right here. And then we can also see the spine, hips. We can also see the left colic fracture, right colic fracture, rectum, sigmoid, ascending. My CR for this image is horizontal and perpendicular to the IR to enter the midline of the body at the level of the iliac crests. IR was, I used 14 by 17 inches lengthwise. SID was 40 inches. Breathing is suspended at the end of expiration so that the abdominal organs are not compressed. And my technique was 120 at 20, and I shielded my patient. And my last projection was a PA post-evac projection. When patient was in prone position. And for this image, I used Merrill's evaluation criteria for the KUB as well. And same thing as what I used for the AP Scout. we would want to have similar, position them the same. We want to have evidence of proper collimation, area from prepubic symphysis to the upper abdomen. We don't really have pubic symphysis here, but we see everything we need. The whole colon, vertebral colon centered, ribs and pelvis and hips equidistant to the edge of the image or collimated borders on both sides. No rotation of the patient. Spinous processes in the middle. We can see transverse processes also. The wings of the ilia are symmetric. We can also see the large colon, what we're actually basically looking at, and it's after the contrast has been out, and we still see a little bit of it, but it's not so enlarged. This is a good image to take because we can see, we can make sure to see that the whole colon has the haustra ring, because if it doesn't, then that's a problem. And since we did not see so much detail of the large colon on the scout image, then it's good to take this image because we see the large colon is detailed here. My CR for this image was perpendicular to the IR at the level of the iliac crest. For the supine position, IR was 14 by 17 inches lengthwise, SID 40 inches. Breathing, suspend at the end of expiration so that the abdominal organs are not compressed. And I used technique of 19-20, and I shielded my patient. Yes, and yeah, that's it.